Hello boys and girls and welcome to a new week. It is Larry Kwirirayi here from Harare, just talking about what has happened over the weekend. Zimbabwe lost against Pakistan, but that is not my focus because on Tuesday, Zimbabwe play against Sri Lanka, and I've got some positivity that I want to share with you in as far as that particular match is concerned and this T20 tournament that is taking place. But before I go ahead with that, please remember to subscribe, smash the like button, and also remember that bell that you have there. Just click it as well, or stab it, or whatever it is, click on it, tap it, whatever you're doing with whatever gadget you're using at the moment. Stab is a really weird one to use, but we'll go with that one. Maybe that should become a thing, stab it. Or maybe it might scare some people. Yeah, let's get back to the cricket. Anyway, so Zimbabwe lost by 69 runs to Pakistan. Look, there was a match in which I think you file under loss of lessons learned, but I wouldn't be panicking because I think a lot of things just went wrong. I'm going to be hard-pressed to find an inning since it came back. In fact, you're not going to find an inning since it came back in which Brad Evans is going to concede 59 runs in 4 overs, getting only 1 wicket. And that hurt at the end where he overstepped. And I also think, just a lot of things that just didn't go well yesterday. The opening partnership didn't click. But it's one of those matches where you say, look, we could really have an inquest on this, but we could just say, look, we just didn't play as good as we can. Even Raza, who has been, going at between 1 for 18 and 1 for 26 in 4 overs, went for, 2 for 39. You know what I mean? So it was one of those matches, I'll say, in which what could have gone wrong went wrong. And what you just worry about is with Zimbabwe, when the score just goes over 180, we don't seem to know what plan we have in as far as chasing it. This was the first time in this particular tournament that we were asked to chase, but we just don't seem to know how to go about executing a chase. And I just think that's just one thing we need to work on. It's a chase that goes over 160, 170. I don't know if we tried to go too quickly or whatever the case may be. And I just hope that it's something that we can figure out. But there are good things to look at. Ryan Burl looking like the explosive hitter that we signed up for when he became the Buru, we called him, when he became the first time he became a Zimbabwe cricket player, clears the boundary with regularity. We don't have enough people down the order. Tashinga Msekiwa does it sometimes, but oftentimes he comes and faces 4 or 5 balls and is gone. And this is a guy who's faced about 250 balls in 33 matches, which is talking about you're roughly looking at 7 balls per match or something like that. So he's not facing that many balls, and you want him to face a lot more. I just do think that Zimbabwe have to figure that part out. What happens after Ryan Burl, I beg your pardon, when you go to Tony Mnyonga, who's struggling, guys, he's struggling. And then you go to Tashinga Msekiwa, he comes in, and more often than not, because Tony Mnyonga hasn't really played his role, he's often coming in playing at the position that Tony Mnyonga is playing. In my opinion, it's almost as if he's coming in at number 6, or sorry, at number 7. He's coming in. I should have done my maths a little bit earlier, but Ryan Burl comes in number 5, Tony Mnyonga comes in number 6, and Tashinga Msekiwa comes in as number 7. So Tashinga Msekiwa is coming in one earlier almost all the time, because very so often Tony Mnyonga is coming in and going out after 2 balls, 3 balls, 4 balls, 5 balls, and so there isn't that period where you figure out what the next guy is doing and then you figure it out. You see, getting on to my next point of that one, it's a different thing if it's not happening often, where you're only being called in to come in to play in that position once in a while. But more often than not, he's having to come in playing almost as the number 6 in the team when he's really the number 7. And that doesn't give him enough time to sort of see what the number 6 guy is doing. And I know we're ultimately, at the end of the day, this is T20 cricket. There are only 120 balls, and guys should play wherever they're supposed to play and just execute the tasks as they see them. But that does, for me, make a difference. That you need Tony Mnyonga to start making those runs. And going a little bit further, you also need Brendan Taylor to start making those runs. We can't have situations where regularly Sikandar Raza is coming into bat during the power play. And he's a guy who's a big hitter. He's a guy who you want to come in probably after the 10th over, because he's going to then clear the boundary with reckless abandon. If you want to call it, I don't want to call it reckless abandon, with abandon. Because if it's in the last 60 balls, guaranteed, if Raza faces about 30, 35 of those balls, you're getting 60 runs. But if he's coming in with, 90 balls to go, for example, what you end up with a situation is where he's having to build the innings, put it together, and then not having the opportunity to really have a go towards the end, because he's still trying to keep the match together. And notwithstanding, as I said, on the other side, the guys might be falling off and that sort of thing. So that's the thing that you want to worry about. I just think, though, having said that, I wouldn't drop the Tony Mnyonga. I know Clive Madande can do a job there, and I know there's also the urge to drop Brendan Taylor and bring in Dion Myers. But if you've gone so far into the tournament and played so many games and so close to the World Cup, you clearly have to have the courage of the convictions that what formula you have in place is meant to work. Or else, after this, there are no internationals left. And you are now getting yourself in a situation where you're playing a virtual semi-final on Tuesday against Sri Lanka. That is a semi-final. Win that match and you're in the final against Pakistan this coming weekend. So you've gotten yourself into that position where you have to have the courage of your convictions. If you believe that Brendan Taylor is your number 3 at the World Cup and Tony Mnyonga is your number 6 at the World Cup, you're going to have to play them, because they're not going to get better by sitting on the bench. Although, of course, somebody would argue that Clive Madande is not going to get better by sitting on the bench, and neither is Dion Myers. But ultimately, what you want to do is you want to give yourself your best players, as much play as possible, in as far as trying to get their eye in at international level, in as far as this World Cup that's coming. I don't know what you think. Is it kind of a situation where we're still saying, look, we're still figuring out combinations, the World Cup is coming, and let's try out a different combination. It might work, it might not work. What if it works? And then you go to the World Cup and it doesn't work, and then you ask yourself, we should have done what we were convinced about when we went with Brendan Taylor and Tony Mnyonga. It's a conversation that is worth having, and and as far as Zimbabwe is concerned, I still expect them to beat Sri Lanka. But Sri Lanka is one of those teams that could wake up and wipe the floor with anyone in the world, and but they haven't done well in this particular tournament. And it's up to Zimbabwe to, really stamp their authority as being not the little brother of this tournament. Because you can see from the attitude of some of the media, the question that they've been asking, the guys who have faced the media in Sikandar Raza and Ryan Burl, almost saying, like, you guys shouldn't be here. You guys are not that good. And it's about Zimbabwe now responding aggressively to these kinds of things. So that's my thoughts. Share down there with your thoughts. What do you think? Am I making sense? Am I talking out of my rear end? I don't know. The name is Kwirirayi. Let's go.